set so you can record.
Okay, great. I just didn't want to record and not let you know. I keep telling myself that I'm just going to record everybody, but I haven't been able to bring myself to do that yet. Like ideally, I could not tell you I'm recording, and then I would tell you, hey, I recorded this. Can I keep the recording? And I only do that because some people, when you tell them that you're recording, they instantly turn into a different person.
Yeah, I understand. I have a few different characters, but we'll just go for the, whatever we're talking about.
Hold on. I love how you said that. Well, cool. I'm more here to listen. Can you tell me whatever you want to tell me, whenever you want to tell me, in whatever order you want to tell me?
Okay. I felt like you might leave it open like that. There's a few, I guess, important, things that kind of come up when you're dealing with Indian law and tribal law. There's Indian law, which is how our government dealt with the tribes over time. And then there's tribal law, which is kind of developed over time. Many of the tribes are also incorporated, like our country. And
Right.
So I'm not sure if there's been a lot of Supreme Court cases that have really done a lot of damage to tribal sovereignty over the years. There's just been a historic trend of just really, knocking it out and limiting it in every way possible. And so, there's some issues when you're, dealing with tribes. And so one of the things is that the tribes that are recognized by the federal government, they have a trustee relationship to the government. And so they're basically only recognized as a lesser sovereign status compared to, the corporate US. And so basically all of the treaties which underlie this entire history, those are all placing the tribes into a trust status. And so, you have the US government over here and then the tribes down here, and they're looking for support, looking for the US to maintain their duties, looking for their, everything good that the treaties are supposed to provide for. So that's kind of an issue too. And so there are some tribes in the country that are still petitioning even for recognition to this day. There's probably close to 500 of them that are, trying to be recognized, and they have to set forth a history going back, to time immemorial, and so forth. And so, this is, I'm going way back because I haven't been practicing tribal law in quite some time. I'm actually inactive right now, but this is all just kind of general background stuff.
You were a lawyer, practicing lawyer at one time?
Yeah, I practiced up until 2014, and I haven't been practicing since then. There's just so many issues with this whole system, and so I've gone inactive for Navajo, mainly because they have a pro bono requirement of every attorney over there. So in exchange for the privilege of practicing law in the Navajo Nation, you are expected to provide pro bono service by appointment by the court. And so you get very little notice, and you have to be out there to attend the hearings, and it's, a strain on a working mother, which I was at the time. So
Gotcha.
It's kind of controversial over there, but it's one jurisdiction that, you're required to do that pro bono service for free, just because there's so much need. The Navajo Nation is basically a demilitarized zone, much like a lot of the, not every reservation, because they all have their own histories. And so some tribes, if there was more conflict, then their their reservations are more like demilitarized reservations, okay, because of the conflict that went on with the country. But you have a lot of tribes here in New Mexico, including most of the Pueblos, not counting the Pueblo revolt, which is another thing, but the Pueblos had a relatively peaceful coexistence with the US government, because basically they came into the picture with a treaty from Spain. And so their lands were protected by a Spanish land grant. And so you can tell the history there. So they didn't have to like fight to be protected, because when these lands were incorporated into the territories, they basically recognized the treaty that provided for the Pueblos lands. And so you'll see they have a much, different history than many other tribes. It's all just so specific to the tribe and the people and the history, as you know.
Would you say that the legal classification of citizen, does a Native American, a nation dweller, do they have more rights than a citizen or less rights than a citizen?
I would say more, because they're living in two worlds.
Yeah.
Of course, our dominant culture will do everything they can to limit those rights, but because their tribal sovereignty kind of pre-originates our own history and everything. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. How crazy is the idea that people living next to a reservation who are living on American land could secede from the Union and merge with the tribe?
Well, merge. I don't know. That would be a tribal sovereignty issue that you would have to bring up with the governance structure of the tribe. Okay. Now, if you're talking tribal governance structure, like that's a lot of good material that we should cover. And I want to give you that material because it's totally relevant to like what we're doing. And so like in a forward looking way, there's elements that we could gain so much from tribal governance. Basically, it's more natural, it's more organic. Even leadership is based on ability. Right. And so, if there's not a need for leadership, then, there wouldn't be like a leader just saying, I'm the leader and follow me, everybody. There's people who are respected based upon their capabilities and based upon their abilities, yep. Which is what you have here in our group. I hope I'm not talking too fast. I'm from Boston.
You're doing fabulous. This is fantastic.
It's like talk as fast as I can and get as much of this in before I have to go help my baby.
Describing the Cajun Navy. When the Cajun Navy was activated, there was no official decree. There was no official mustering call. There wasn't a form you had to fill out. No one had to enlist. This is people showing up, and the ones who had earned the most prana or respect from their village were automatically the leaders. It was a very natural system that fell into place. And it actually became a competing ground for prana, where all these different people are like, wow, what's the most impact I could do, to help the most people in this situation? That's what would give me a promotion, so to speak, instead of a commendation from, a central office in the Pentagon that says, you are now a E7, way to go, you're a letter with a number now. It's a completely different system.
Head right in. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's this corporate structure that's just hijacked everyone's power, and as long as everyone is contributing to it, they're going to be feeding that manifestation, know. And so like basically what I see is that, we've handed over all of these powers, and, we have this constitution and possibly a secret constitution. And, people are trying to like scramble and see, well, how can we, assert ourselves in this way? Do we revoke our contracts because they're likely void? and if we do that, how are we going to sustain ourselves? But I think that there's really plenty of material to work with that we're going to be able to, and even under our own Constitution, under the 10th Amendment, where the powers are reserved for the states and the people. So any of our powers we can call upon at any time and be perfectly valid under the Constitution, in my opinion. Right. Legal interpretation always omits that part, but those three words and the people are very important because we do maintain those powers, and it's not just the states, but that's kind of getting into the Civil War stuff, but it's entirely relevant.
Yeah. Oh no, it's very relevant. So for anyone who may be watching this, because we haven't said if I can use your recording yet, and that's fine. I'm going to bring to you two different avenues, and feel free to add another or to completely chop off one or both. Okay. So one avenue is that independent people who had private property would declare, me as the free owner of this property. I own this property. I'm a free man. I am merging my property with this Native American nation. Okay, that's kind of one idea. All right. But another idea I think I hear you're saying is it doesn't even involve that. It's simply as, look, this is my private property. By me owning property, this is my right. I am seceding from the Union. And, I could choose to incorporate however I need to, but the incorporation is not necessarily a requirement of my secession. Go anywhere you want to go with any of that.
Exactly. So, yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. So the issue is, okay, assuming that we are a nation that's been at war since the Civil War, which was probably a huge false flag, right, admittedly, and we all got dragged into it. I have family members who fought in the Civil War, and so, it's a very personal issue for me because I can see how my family kind of fell out from there. But going back to that point where, we were a nation at war, we're placed under martial law, likely, I don't see us coming out of the martial law since then. There's nothing that directly indicates to me that our nation came out from martial law. And so to me, it feels like we're more of a nation that's like at siege, or, we're taken over by foreigners who have kind of gotten us to agree to it to a point because we're comfortable, or we think we're free, or we believe certain things. But what we need to do is, this is just my personal, I feel like it's more of a prisoner of war situation, especially, literally the hearts and minds of our countrymen are, being held prisoner. I don't really know how else to explain it. That's just what I feel. And so I'm not sure. Are you familiar with the secured creditor stuff that Santos Bonacci put out and some other people put out over the years?
Yeah.
There's some claims that you would make a claim under international law, basically, and claim that you're not taking part in the hostilities anymore. And so it's like a way of claiming your personal property during wartime, because during wartime, the sovereign owns all the property. Basically, it's the citizens are like permitted to use the property at the pleasure of the commander-in-chief. It's not so much, and so our ownership even has been diverted almost, and that's why we have this structure where we have birth certificates, we have driver's licenses, and we're operating in legal fiction. And the courts are like the churches of it all, where they all go, it all ends in the courts, and so they're literally, it's, I'm not sure how exactly controversial this is, but in my opinion, it's just a huge human trafficking scheme. That's what they're doing. That's just my opinion. And that's why, I don't feel comfortable practicing in the courts anymore. I don't see that they're serving people. They're just running corporations through the mill. And it's not a people-oriented justice system. It's an avoid justice system.
Wow. So when you say human trafficking, that's fascinating. You're taking that all the way back to the Civil War, aren't you? You're saying that that corporations long ago were participating in human trafficking, and this is what our birth certificate is. This is what our entire system.
I feel so, and I feel that's why we have this huge human trafficking psyop going on right now, where they're like, focus on the children. And yeah, you know, this has been going on since, you know, antiquity.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, I'm glad people are aware of it now, but it's not taking any more responsibility for the issue. And it's completely diverting from the actual legal human trafficking that I believe is going on. I mean, you see it on Twitter. People are talking about how there's, you know, these shell corporations that are being traded on Wall Street, and we're all collateralized. And, you know, it's not really a big secret anymore. But, you know, the question is, how do we get around it? You know, if we have these people who are claiming, you know, through the Vatican, basically, that they own us and under these trusts and everything, how do we, you know, break off from that system? And, you know, I feel like we're a little bit all over the place on this call, and that's okay, like between you and me. But if we were going to present this material to the public, you know, I think it would be a good idea to really like present it in a way that we can lay it out for them. And I do have some notes here, so I think we could do that maybe if we schedule another call. But you know, I know we're getting into some good material.
Yeah, certainly. And so just to make sure I'm on the same page with you, you're talking about Black's Law. You're talking about the Roman Catholic Church, even going all the way back to the papal decrees and things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where we're at. I think that's the creature that we're literally wrestling with. And I mean, as you went into in your book 3, you know, how they use the Bible to literally control people's minds, that's really good material. And that's exactly what's going on here. And you can see how Q is playing the team Christians and, you know, furthering that Zionist agenda. You know, that's very real. And, you know, that's where it's at. That's where the war is right now. And it's just hearts and minds, you know. You have good people, you know, giving their hearts and minds over to something that they think is right.
Yep. Well, I think we see the same thing. And I don't think that it's any, I think the exaggeration is to imply that we fought the Civil War over slavery. I think to pretend like that's what was happening.
Yeah.
And actually, a much larger slavery program was already long underway before then. In fact, if you didn't want to be a slave in the South, they had a word for you, and that was called Seminole. You were a dude that was living in the woods that had tribed up with a bunch of other people, and we're like, no, I'm not. Those people are freaking crazy. They're psychopathic. No, I'm living right here. I'm living off the land. Yeah. If you lived in the Tennessee Valley and you did not participate in what we're calling the government, they had a word for you. It was called Cherokee or Greek. That was what they called you then. If you lived up north and you came in from France and you decided, what a stupid system. Why am I serving a king? They had a word for you. It was called Huron. And I think that we're looking at a mass amnesia taking place, which I do not know the truth of it all. And I think that we could still tell the story about how we don't know the truth of it all. Because when we start to try and uncover the history of America, Christopher Columbus was an eraser. It wasn't a history, it was an eraser mark. It was Christopher Columbus discovered America, which comes with a subversive, sinister belief that no one was here. There was no history here before Columbus. That's them basically slaying the dragon, the Quetzalcoatl. I know this sounds really mystical, but I'm telling you, this is true. It's America is this serpent. And just like Apollo came down to Delphi and chopped the head off Pythos and sent the serpent into the ground, the exact same thing happened over here on a much larger scale. There was a giant culture that was decapitated by this light worship kind of concept that we have. So the amnesia is what causes the hearts and the minds to fade and disappear and become enslaved. It's our amnesia is, and I know I'm preaching the choir here, I know.
Very much so, yeah.
But the amnesia cuts off our roots to the soil. And the moment we lose our roots to the soil, we lose the connection of the memories of the land. And that's really what you're looking at. You can't have human trafficking is a twofold endeavor. It's going to make you forget your roots to the land, and it's going to make people more docile and more easily led in the future. If you can migrate an entire family to another country, you own that family now. You're the one that said it. This is
It's generational.
historical,
Yeah, absolutely.
historical epigenetic slavery, and it's all legal.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a net, and the thing is that anyone that's capable of, going through the schooling program that's going to take you to the level of, like Dr. Kaufman said, being a doctor, like being a lawyer, in order to do that, you have to buy it hook, line, and sinker. There's no making it through it unless you buy the, Kool-Aid and drink it. So yeah, I mean, and then you're up against a bunch of, people with mental abilities that think they're right, and they're just going to lock right into the system and, go right down with it, basically.
Yep. Well, there's a pedestal form of slavery in the white coat and in the silk tie. You were uplifted above everyone else. You're given more money, you're given more status, you're given more control, you're given more authority, you're given more respect. The prana that naturally flowed in the Cajun Navy is actually distributed via paper and certificate in our world that we have, this satanic chain of command.
Yeah.
It's only when we have this meta discussion like this, where you can stand back and look and go, all of this makes perfect sense. What I mean by that is that all of the psychopathy, all of the lies, all of the torture, the deceit, if you don't look at it through this lens, it's all just looks like crazy madmen that don't really have a purpose. They're just there to have sex with babies, or whatever the story is you're going to tell yourself. But actually, no, there's a profoundly practical and simple and logical, even, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say it's moral, but what I mean is there's a very practical reason for treating it this way, for telling us these things, for inventing Columbus. For all of these kind of notions have the exact same effect, which is this human traffic slavery system that you've so eloquently nailed. I've never really looked at it this way exactly before.
I think that's what we're dealing with. I think that's why they're really trying to distract with this whole Q psyop thing, right, and everything. I mean, everything's just such a psyop. It's like psyop after psyop, and so like when we get to talk about some of this tribal governance and indigenous governance structure, I think it's going to really open up like fields of possibilities. Also, while I think of it, while I have you here, can you turn off the recorder for a second? I just.
Okay. We had
go back on the movie.
Yes, go ahead. Iroquois Confederacy?
Yeah, so this Iroquois Confederacy story, this really needs to be heard. So how are you, I'm not going to ask questions because we're having a production meeting tonight, right? Yes,
we are. We're having a production meeting tonight. But you're welcome to ask me anything, especially if it, it ties into this, because I've read the Iroquois Constitution. I'm not saying that I know it that well.
Yeah, but I haven't looked at it in a while.
Here's what I think is profoundly different. The Iroquois Confederacy, although they have the same bicameral house as we do, they have that same structure, except for theirs is elders and not elders. I forget the other word. They have what I'm calling unanimous government. anyone is basically allowed to veto whatever they do.
Yeah.
In America, we don't have that. We have majority rule, which means that although we pretend to be protecting the minority, that's actually not what we're doing at all. It's quite the opposite. We are led by zeitgeist. And zeitgeist is really just a collection of mumbles that have been put into what's the word that was used the most here, and now everyone's going to vote for that. It's the worst possible system that's ever been invented. It truly is slavery. It's just mass slavery, but it doesn't matter. Zeitgeist slavery is still slavery.
Yeah, and there's so much mind control in controlling everyone, you know, just in controlling the dialogue between the back and forth, you're just really limiting the possibilities. And it's so unusual for people to go outside the box if they're being directed in one corner or another.
Yeah, and you really can't go outside the box, because to introduce something to the bicameral House, you would already have to have a box made to begin with. And so, but going back to the Iroquois Confederacy, that's what made it so great, because it was a unanimous government, which means that most of the time nothing fucking got done.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful. Which is beautiful. That's great, because if you're trying to get everyone, hey, we need to build this central teepee, and there's always one guy named Ron saying, no, fuck that. Guess what? All it does is encourage you to do it yourself. All it does is just encourage a few people that really want that thing just to do it themselves. And then you don't need this government thing. It's the perfect system for keeping government small.
The whole government is fictional. It's just a huge, like, fake thing that people are investing in that doesn't even serve them at all. Bingo. Let me just touch on some of this traditional law stuff for you. Please, that way you have some So every tribe is essentially ethnocentric. They contain themselves in some kind of way. The Navajo, they refer to themselves as the Dene, which means people. And so most tribes, they call themselves the people. And that's in contrast to people outside their tribe. And so most tribal people, including the Iroquois and the tribes up there, very proud people. You know, it's a very proud people. And so you have, let's see, in the structure, can you see that? Can you see that?
Sure can.
Okay, so you have 4 sources of law the Navajos find themselves, but you can see in this diagram, the people place themselves at the top. And so all of this stuff, and so their leaders even are under them. And so these are your, the people that speak for the other people. And then the Bena Hazane laws. So in the Dene system, the law is referred to as a being. So as you would talk about perhaps your father or your neighbor, you also refer to the law. And so the lawyers in the Navajo system are intermediaries where they relate the people to the law and thus restore harmony. And so all Indigenous justice systems have the intention of restoring harmony at its earliest point possible, because there's a recognition that there's a disharmony. Something happened that brought the people out of harmony, and it's because they're not relating to the law the right way. And so it's an honest relationship, the same way a parent has with their children, or a husband has with their wife, brother and sister, grandparent and grandson. The person has the relationship with the law. And so that is what brings in the harmony. And so the whole point of life is to live in beauty in the Navajo way. And so you are restoring harmony, restoring beauty, and using the law for that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so that's the conceptual difference. Whereas you can see here, it's completely the opposite.
Yeah.
Say a crime happens, it could be months, the court case could drag on for months, maybe years. You might never get justice. The victims are going to be dragged through the ringer. They might not be happy with the result. They'll have no say. All these things. And so that is just completely contrary to Indigenous justice. Indigenous justice is restored as soon as possible to allow the people to go on and continue. And so really what we're dealing with here is like a huge, our legal structure is in disharmony. And so we need to restore harmony, at least if you were to frame this in a Navajo way of thinking. And I'll just show you this one for fun because you're a flat earther. But this is the Navajo flat earth.
Nice.
And so you can see they came from this underworld and they emerged up into this is our world. And here's the dome.
Wow.
Yeah. And so all the tribes around here, they have those stories, where they're coming through the worlds and then they emerge, they come to the top and they go through the hole and then they're like, oh, here we are, and then that's the beginning of their tribe.
Right. That is awesome.
Yeah. So fun stuff.
So deny, is that the word deny?
Dene.
Dene?
Dene.
Can you spell that? D-I-N-A-I? Is that how that would spell?
D-I-N-E with a little inflection mark on it, Dene. And so they have their law from 4 sources that they recognize. Your traditional law, your customary law, your natural law, and your common law. And so traditional law is actually going to be, I believe it comes from like the star people. And so this is actually coming down from like a higher dimensional source, basically, I think, or some kind of spiritual source. Your customary law, that's going to guide your relations between people. And it's also very much underlying the Navajo law is the clan system. And so that's just critical. I think most tribes are held together by their clan system. I know it's very, very important in Navajo. And so basically everything falls out from there. Who you can marry, who you can have kids with, how husbands and wives relate to each other and children and family and all of the relationships. It's all dictated by customary law.
Okay.
And then your natural law, that's going to govern the seasons. It's going to govern the day, the night. The directions, the stars, the natural world, that's all governed by natural law. And so people don't really have a part in that, but they recognize it.
Okay.
And then you have your common law, which is basically similar to our common law. And
is there a hierarchy for any of those?
I don't think so.
Like does one trump the other?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I think here they have them all side by side.
Gotcha.
So I think that would pretty much, say they're all coming up to the people, kind of equally. But it's just so important, like, I guess it's just, it kind of helps like every day, like to see like, I say like being Navajo is kind of contagious because it's a worldview, and so you can kind of adopt the worldview and kind of see through that way. I got to go to school out here in New Mexico, and so I went to school with a lot of Native people, both undergrad and graduate, and so literally people would come from like Alaska, Wyoming, all over the country to go to law school here because of the Indian program. And so I really took the opportunity to just listen as much as possible, because I knew that that's a special opportunity that most, European American people don't have the opportunity to, hear that. So, I always listen very carefully to people who knew these things much better than I do, and I'm probably butchering them, but, the takeaway is that I feel these things can really benefit us on a conceptual level, and it is a serious paradigm shift, and that's what we're dealing with. And even the Native people who, have received these educations and gotten the degrees and they're out there in the world working, they're the first ones to say that they're walking in 2 worlds. They have this world that they have to deal with the school and the Western minds, and, compensating for that. And then having the people back home, just see the world so differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that really ties in with chopping the roots up. The Trail of Tears moved your roots. Your
Oh yeah.
The point was, if they could really be telling the truth, exactly what they wanted is, hey, we don't care where you go, we just need you to sever your pranic roots to the ground. So go where the fuck you want. Our only goal is to get you to sever your pranic roots to the ground, to forget where your ancestors were buried. And it's weird, because if you look in the Bible, that's all they were doing in the Old Testament was, we got to cover this shit with bones, man. we got to find other bones and cover these bones with these other bones, so people will forget. Not to bring this back to my book, but this is why I wrote about the technology of belief. Because if you really just look at the program and follow it, you understand, why are they working so hard to cut that off? Like, seriously, why would you spend that much money to do that? Why do you need the Cherokee to go away? There's an intrinsic threat that they saw in Kuala. Was the area where they're from.
Did you know that the Cherokee were like the first tribe to put their their laws down in writing, and they had the first jailhouse? I think they were the first ones to even prosecute their criminals and stuff like that.
Yep.
Which brings me to another thing, is that, the tribes can't prosecute their own criminals. They have, crazy psychopathic murderers wandering around out there, killing people and abusing children. And the tribes can't even do anything because they can't punish their criminals for more than a year. They only have misdemeanor crimes.
Whoa, how the hell does that work?
It's because of their trust status. And so they rely on the federal government to prosecute their criminals for them.
Wow.
Because of a long sordid history. And so, I mean, it is really
and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. The women and children out there, they really, really suffer. But the traditional families who, maintain the connection with all of that indigenous knowledge and all the valuable stuff that really do, make people good, they're okay. And there are tribes that take care of their people, but it depends on the tribe and the leadership structure. If the tribal government is corrupted, the people will suffer.
Yep.
But if the tribe is really taking care of its people, if they're using that casino money, reinvesting in the people, bringing in these programs, growing the culture,
yep.
They'll be doing better. Not to say there's drugs and abuse everywhere, but it really, really hurts the Indian people, alcohol, drugs, there's a lot going on, and they're really struggling. But it's a real problem that they can't prosecute their criminals, because then they have to rely on the FBI basically to go in, build this case, and then prosecute them in federal court, which is expensive. And so
it's really just that's the same people that gave them the gambling license. It's the same people that said, who wants to be chief?
Yeah.
But your only requirement is you have to agree to our gambling license. And we want you to partner up with this corporation who's going to come in and build the casino for you, because they know how to run casinos.
Yeah.
And now you have a system that's even easier to manage than the regular citizen. It's an even more, so they don't really have more. They have more sovereignty, but also they have less sovereignty.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what you're saying.
It's taken a big hit. And, they just chop it off every chance they get. It's like, oh, well, you don't need these hunting and fishing rights, and so say goodbye to those. And, the tribes really honor the treaties, and that's the best thing you can do, is honor the treaties for them. And so, if you look at the Mohawks up there, St. Regis, Aquazazne, I can't say, up there, they still make the governments honor their treaties. And so, like, the tribe has held the, federal government to their obligations. But not every tribe has been able to do that, and so, but the treaty always comes first. The treaty, what the treaty says, what it, that's always the first. But I think that, honestly, because this has happened to us, and this has happened to all the Indian people too. So we're all pretty much in the same situation, like, they're not like particularly better off, except they do have that, history, and they have the, the idea that the sovereignty is there. It's been litigated away, but I don't think that's changed it in truth, because I know what goes on in court, and there's findings, and just people go with it and they run with it. And it's unfortunate, but that's the world we live in, and it's just, it's not ideal.
I think that's probably the biggest hologram that's causing all the complacency, is our illusion of justice.
Yeah.
The what we're calling our system of justice is really what's causing all the illusion.
And the political process.
Yeah, and that too, for sure.
Because what you'll see is the courts will defer to the political process when convenient. And they'll say, well, that's not for us. If we were to do anything about this, we would be interfering in the political process. Yeah. And so, but then it's like, what are you really going to do with that? Voting doesn't change anything. And, our leaders are being elected somehow, and no one knows how. I have an idea, but probably for another call.
Well, I would say that voting does one thing, which is, this is a new thing for me, but every time we vote, what we're really saying is we're signing our name as an approval to the system that we have.
Yeah. Bingo.
There's a really powerful prana contract that happens. If you're going to go out there and vote, you really are saying, I condone all of this. What you're doing, I condone now. Yeah. And then you enter into the slippery funnel of, well, this is less evil than that evil. No, I'm less evil than you're evil. And hence this is a fight about God. Which is what we're hearing now, and God wins by voting Republican, or
they must be right, God is just the ultimate rightness.
It's Democrats want big government, Republicans want huge government, and we're condoning this by voting for either one, and that's going to be a really hard sell. For us, except for to the people that are already awake, because the ones that are already awake are already uncomfortable. Therefore, we don't have to compete with the opioid of QAnon, or of, Trump is going to save the day, or of the power of Ivanka Trump, or whatever the new thing is. The people that are awake, luckily, we don't have to compete with their comfort level. It's a totally different ball game from there, and that's really been my faux pas this last year, has been focusing way too much on trying to change the comfortable, and instead now I want us to focus on, let's make a better camp for the uncomfortable, because the uncomfortable that have already risen, these people are already standing, they're already out on the range, and we are finding them over the vista. So it's better for us to build a fire for them and say, fuck the ones that are comfortable. This is their choice. They're
very much so. And they can make that choice when they see that it's more desirable for them. And I think we can make it desirable.
I think we're doing it right now. I think even this discussion that we're having right now is
Yeah,
really showing
I
that.
think it's gonna definitely come together. I think we have everything we need organically,
Hmm.
and so just the the issue is just to the actual process, revoking the contracts, revoking this, making that claim for sovereignty, and then standing on our organic power, our organic laws, and operating from there. Because all the powers in the people, we have everything we need. We don't need the courts, so much. I don't think.
I think you're right.
Mhm.
It's inspiring to have this conversation with you because
Good. I hope we can talk about it more in the future. I think I'm gonna have to put my baby down for a nap.
your thing. Oh no.
But I'm really glad that we finally got to talk, and I have so much material that I want to give to you as kind of the leader of the situation, and so I just want you to have the background information and all this stuff. So moving forward, you feel really like confident about it. But
Yeah.
I think it's all here. I just want to reassure you.
Right on. Well, I'd like to use these talks, as many as we can have, as educational ceremony for other people too.
Yeah, I think we should. Why don't I write you maybe like a little summary of some stuff that we can bring in front of like the people or something. If you want to show this, that's fine. But I prefer to be real like streamlined and organized and disciplined like in my approach. So, I don't appear like I'm just all over the place with this stuff, but I'd like to present some material that, they would really like appreciate, and something that they can latch onto that'll make them feel,
Yeah. Empowered.
like, yeah, exactly.
This is great. This is fantastic. This is I would say this is even better than I expected, but I had a feeling that I was going to really enjoy our talk. I just did. I've been looking forward to it all
Well, I
week.
knew I would. I've been loving your books, and I've been reading them. I'm on book 2. I did 3, book 1, and now I'm on 2, and they're all great. I love them so much. I can't even speak highly enough of them. They're just really great.
Well, thank you.
No.
Well, thank you for this, because this is what's going to make this movie sing.
Yeah.
This, what you have in your head is not what I have in my head, and so
Oh,
thank
I
you.
appreciate that. I really like
Astounding.
your vision. I think your vision was, was great. And when I read that chapter, it just really like there was a clarion call.
Yeah. Well, good. We are tribing up over this, and
Yeah.
I'm still downloading information from you, and this is what our movie.
I have more. I feel like we just kind of skimmed the surface,
Yeah,
but
that's
it
great.
was a necessary thing. We had to just kind of cover as much ground as possible and then focus.
That's great. It's been fantastic. I don't want to keep you because I know you've got.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I gotta put my baby down.
No, it's
I can
totally
hear
okay.
him calling me.
Thank you so much. We'll talk real soon.
Okay, James, take care.
All right, take care. Bye,
Bye-bye.
Becky.
Mhm.